welcome back to another edition of 10 Count. I'm Steve Kim. We're at Hollywood Smoke in the city of Santa Monica. I am joined by Michael Baca of UCN Live, and it's the return, don't call it a comeback, the sports god, Dave Smith. And Dave, this Saturday, it is the finale, and they're actually calling it the final one of one of your favorite fighters, the executioner, Bernard Hopkins, the swan-song against Joe Smith. Dave, I've known you for years, but you've said for at least, I'd say, 17, 18 years, you've always said Bernard Hopkins is one of the top 5 middleweights of all time in your book.
Yeah, before the Trinidad fight, and when I saw him, I think back in 94 or 95, I said, I love this guy. He's going to be the one who beats Oscar De La Hoya. He's going to be the one to be one of the great middleweights of all time. And great, he's always been good to me. Great guy. And I think that this is a testament to staying in condition and to not getting up in weight between fights. He stays on weight. When he was a middleweight, he never got over 160 between fights. Now that he's a light heavy, he's 175, 176 year round. So I think when you blow up and have to lose a bunch of weight going to training camp, that's what ages you. That's what takes your legs away. Staying on point, staying disciplined, staying on weight between fights. And look at the results here. 51 years old, and he's still a world-class caliber fighter. And I don't know, Steve, if he wins impressively and knocks this guy out,
they better not.
We got to see him in there with Kovalev or Andre Ward.
Hold on. Can I just say something? When you are marketing and selling this as the final one, and you have a hashtag, which really makes it official, if he dared fights again, every single person better demand a rematch or a refund from the tickets at the Forum. Dave, what do you think is his greatest achievement? His run at middleweight, where he made 20 defenses, surpassing Carlos Monzon, or jumping up 2 weight classes and then having success at light heavyweight and winning the linear crown against Antonio Tarver, I believe, in 2006. Which one would you choose?
Wow, that was the Tarver win was great, jumping up 2 weight classes. I'd have to say, though, the Trinidad fight, because he was kind of an unknown commodity. You had to be a boxing fan, aficionado, to really know who Bernard Hopkins was back then. And everybody thought Trinidad was going to knock him out after William Joppy, after Fernando Vargas. And Bernard, to completely take him apart and dismantle him that night and become a household name and become a multi-million-dollar fighter, I think that was his greatest accomplishment.
Mike, what's your everlasting moment of the executioner?
I definitely remember that Trinidad fight when he fell to the canvas after he knocked out Tito and stared at the rafters of the Madison Square Garden.
I was there.
Kind of brought it all in. I was just a little kid back then. But for more recent memory, and I don't think a lot of people will bring this up, the 12th round against Sergey Kovalev 2 years ago in November, that I was just truly amazed by Bernard Hopkins, how he just survived in there and frustrated Kovalev. He lost every round of that fight, every minute of every round of that fight. But at 50 years old, to do that and give, Kovalev fits in that last 3 minutes, and he got battered in those last 3 minutes, and he did not give up. I thought I loved watching that. It's something I'll always remember about Bernard Hopkins, who I think is definitely one of the most, what's the word I'm looking for? Accomplished and disciplined fighters. Yeah. I think a lot of fighters can learn from Bernard Hopkins.
One thing I'll remember about Bernard Hopkins, having lunch with him, this was the afternoon of the Kovalev-Najib Mohammadi fight, July of last year. And he was there for HBO. We're having lunch, and he orders a sandwich, guys, a chicken sandwich. And he didn't realize it was like fried with breading on it. And when he got the sandwich, he actually takes off the bread. And it was like he was doing surgery with the knife and his fork, like brushing off all the breading and all the fried parts of it, and he took 2 French fries. He really is the most disciplined athlete I think I've ever seen.
I had lunch with him in Philadelphia. It was in 2000, right before the Trinidad fight. It was during the Lakers-Sixers finals. It was that in 2001. And we ordered the food, we're sitting at the table, and he's looking at me saying, oh no, no. Everything I ate, no, not good for you. And he's scraping stuff off and I was drinking water. He said, no, never drink water. You have to have the Perrier, the bubbly. That's what settles your stomach. That's what gets you lean. You can't drink regular water. It's got to be the Perrier, the carbonated water. So he was teaching me a great deal about diet even back then.
You know what I'm going to remember most? My indelible moment of the executioner was during the press tour for Hopkins Trinidad. Now this, during the time, a lot of stuff was going on, and Trinidad was thought to be this unmovable, irresistible force after what he did to William Joppy. He literally hit through the guy. And they're in Puerto Rico. And I remember Bernard telling me, Steve, they're not going to intimidate me, and he better not wave that flag in my face. And when in front of about 10,000 Puerto Ricans, it was a public press conference. Don King staged it. Lou DiBella was there. It got very heated, and Bernard Hopkins threw down the Puerto Rican flag, I believe in San Juan, and he got chased out of there. And I remember writing, I give Bernard Hopkins credit. It took 10,000 Puerto Ricans to make him run. It took Oscar De La Hoya only one, referring to Trinidad. Just a joke.
He had to jump off a 10-foot wall, too, remember?
He
Almost
got out of
broke
there,
his ankle.
And then I still remember 9/11 taking place. And that fight was actually supposed to originally scheduled for 9/15, 4 days after. Then everyone knows what happened on that Monday. All the flights got canceled. The event got moved back. The actual date of Trinidad Hopkins is September 29, 2001. I have to tell you guys, based on what had happened, the world events, the current events, it's the most tense fight I think I've ever covered. I mean, everyone was still holding their breath. And as you said, Dave, I thought he put on one of the most masterclass performances in middleweight
history. How close
history.
did that fight come to not happening? Because remember, pre-fight, the Hopkins team went in there and they caught Trinidad doing some funny business with the wraps and the gloves, and they made him re-wrap, and he threatened to go home.
The fight was going to happen. First of all, it was part of the middleweight tournament that Don King had established. Now, Bernard Hopkins had fought Keith Holmes. Trinidad had fought William Joppy. So at that point, I think you're at the point of no return. I think there was some gamesmanship with Nazim Richardson. But people forget about that fight. I know Trinidad was, quote-unquote, a blown-up welterweight, but that fight, he was also a 3-1 favorite. So you kind of look at that and you say there's some revisionist history. And by the way, Trinidad could have beat a lot of middleweights still at that point. Dave, so in your mind, Hagler, Monzon, Greb, Mickey Walker, where does Hopkins rank?
Ooh, boy, that's tough. I'd have Hagler ahead of him. Boy, that's a tough one for Monzon. I'd have him slightly behind Carlos Monzon. Boy, Harry Greb, there's a great fighter out of the past. Gene Tunney's only loss was to Harry Greb back in the day. I'd certainly have him top five. I'd have him maybe 3, 4, 5 in that area. In their primes, Roy Jones, Bernard Hopkins, who do you have?
I've said this before, using kind of a baseball term. I'm going to go all Bill James here. I think peak years, I think Roy Jones still has to be placed above him. I think in terms of career longevity, I don't think there's any doubt, Mike. Standing the test of time, it has to be Bernard Hopkins.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do agree with you. Roy Jones in his prime, over Bernard Hopkins. Lastly, about this upcoming fight this Saturday, remember that Bernard Hopkins is a fighter that we all want. He has the perfect personality of a fighter. He has the perfect drive for a fighter, the discipline. We can all learn from him. He's definitely had his controversial moments over the years, but he's taking on a very game Joe Smith here this Saturday. And at 52 years old, a lot of boxers these days are still taking the easiest fights for the easiest money. Now, Bernard, in his last fight, is showing us what he can do, what he's always done in his illustrious career.
One thing that does concern me, he has not fought since the Kovalev fight was November of 2014.
Yeah, that's true.
Mike, real quickly, how interested are you in seeing Alexander Usyk live and in person?
I'm very interested in that fight. It's the cruiserweight Lomachenko, I think. Guy boxes beautifully in there. He doesn't look like a cruiserweight. He looks like a light heavyweight in there. Very light on his feet.
So there you have it. That's on HBO, the finale. Bernard Hopkins takes on Joe Smith. On behalf of Dave Smith and Michael Baca, this is Steve Kim saying, till the next round, goodbye, everybody.